And I guess it's 4 o'clock now, so let's just slowly start the introduction. Welcome everyone in this webinar on space for adaptation to climate change. My name is Remco Timmermans and I'm your host for this afternoon. Quickly take you through the agenda. I'm going to say welcome again, introduce a little bit what this webinar is all about, what the Open Calls program is about. Then we have a speaker from ISISPACE, Zeger De Groot, who is going to talk a little bit about the topic for today. Then we will have my colleague Andrei, who is going to show us some funding calls for climate action in Horizon Europe and maybe other funding opportunities. Then we're going to have a few pitches by people who indicated they wanted to pitch. And after the pitches, we are going into networking mode, because the whole idea here is to do networking mode. Now, before I go further into the introduction of what this webinar is all about, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I have 7 people lined up that indicated in the registration that they would like to do a 1-minute pitch. If you could just indicate in the chat that that is a go for sure. If you have any slides, please indicate that in the chat as well, and make sure you send your slides to Katja so we can run them from here to make sure that we stay within the 1 minute. If you don't have slides, that's perfectly fine too, of course, but at least make sure you leave your contact details in the chat for us. Logistics, I already said it. Please use the chat. This is a networking event more than anything else, so feel free to ask questions, introduce yourself, share your LinkedIn profile. We like to connect with each other, so if you have a LinkedIn profile and you're willing to share it, please do so. Links to your website, to your company are always welcome, so people can connect with you in multiple ways. And please ask any questions that you have for our speakers, including myself, including our guest speakers, in the chat, so everybody can see that. For our viewers on YouTube, of course, you can watch everything as everyone else can, but you cannot participate in the networking. You don't have access to the chat. So if you would like to be part of the chat or of the networking session after the plenary session, please register on opencalls.space. Find the link to this webinar and register. You'll get the Zoom link and we'll admit you to this call so you can participate in the networking afterwards. The presentations and the replay will all be made available to people who registered. So again, the users on YouTube, if you want to receive the presentations and the link to the replay, please register as I indicated before. But the replay of this webinar will be available on our public YouTube channel. If you've any further questions, contact us, contact Katja on info@groundstation.space so we can stay connected. Now, as I said, the whole idea of this webinar is to do networking. So after the plenary part of this webinar, where we have the presentations and the pitches, we'll go into networking mode. We'll turn off the live stream, and we will keep the call open as long as needed for people on Zoom to network in the plenary room or in breakout rooms for as long as needed. There's other ways to network with us outside of the context of this webinar. We have a dedicated Open Calls Network LinkedIn page where you can meet each other, where we post the links to the replay, to the presentations if needed. And you can find all the information about this and upcoming webinars, but also other funding opportunities that we post through this website. Again, this LinkedIn page is meant to be a networking opportunity, so please go to LinkedIn and follow this page to connect to everyone. Follow us on other social media channels as well. Groundstation.space, the dotSPACE Foundation, but also the Netherlands Space Office are on many different social media channels. So pick your favorite channel and find us there, and we can be in touch there as well. Now, the objectives of the Open Calls Network, I highlighted that a little bit, but there's 2 key objectives. The Open Goals Network is a network where we show you selected space sector opportunities in Horizon Europe and other funding opportunities that exist for the space sector. We'd like to highlight the knowledge and expertise of the Dutch space and space data sector, but most of all connect the Dutch and European specialists to form successful consortia to benefit from these funding opportunities in all these different calls. How does this work? Well, it consists of two parts, as I said. The first part is the Open Goals Network platform. This platform lives on the opencalls.space website. You can also find it on the Groundstation.space website. And this is a database of selected Horizon Europe and other funding calls that are of specific interest to the European space sector. So go have a look. These are pre-selected calls from all these different funds that we think are interesting for the European space sector. You can easily search through all the calls, and we prepared fact sheets containing all the key information that you need to write your proposal. Now, the second part, that's what we are doing right now. The second part is the series of webinars that we have on different topics that are relevant to space within Horizon Europe. So this is the 5th webinar of 2022 that we're organizing in collaboration with the Netherlands Space Office, where today we'll talk about adaptation to climate change, which obviously is one of the key focus areas in the Horizon program. Next time, in 2 weeks, we'll talk about biodiversity, and the end of October, in the last webinar of this series, we talk about agriculture under the Farm to Fork header. Previous webinars that are all available to watch in the replay, and you can still receive all the presentations on climate neutral and smart cities, digital in industry, safety and defense, and oceans and waters. Again, you can find them on our YouTube channel, and contact us if you need any information on those topics. But as I said, today we're going to zoom in on opportunities in the area of climate change. And in that context, in the agenda, we have reached the point where I'm going to head over to our first guest, and I would like to welcome Zeger De Groot, the CTO of ISISPACE, who will give us an introduction on how a company like ISISPACE is involved in adaptation to climate change and different calls there. So without further ado, Zeger, over to you, please.
Good, thank you, Remco. Just to check, can you all hear me? Good, then I'll also share my screen. So thanks everybody for this opportunity to provide this. Oh, let me just make sure I have this. Yeah, this opportunity to give this presentation today in this framework on adaptation to climate change and climate change related activities. As mentioned, I'm CTO of a company ISISPACE. A little bit about ISISPACE, if you haven't heard of us. We are a primarily small satellite mission developer, but we also develop a lot of things related to small satellite missions, either subsystems or services related to launch services, operation services. And we're a vertically integrated company based in Delft since about 2006, so now 16 years ago. We're not really a startup anymore. We're now over 130 people from 30 nationalities, and we have worked on a lot of missions and enabled at least 40 missions and launched over 400 satellites through our launch service. Related to our experience with the Horizon program, and also previously called H2020 FP7, that is actually quite extensive. We, as a company, we see the Horizon program and these programs as a very good way of developing technology and receiving co-funding from these programs to develop successful commercial products. And a few examples are that we've been involved in the QB50 project, where we had the ability to receive co-funding to develop our quad-pack deployer, which is now one of the most used CubeSat deployers in the world. We've also developed an electronic power system through the PEACE mission, developed a microsat deployment system and a sequencer for instance, the Vega C rocket using a small satellite program, or the small launcher program, I must say. And also currently we're still involved in a number of programs, for instance, developing high accuracy pointing platforms. And we will continue to be interested in taking part in these consortia. So indeed, maybe later on we can discuss future opportunities further in the network part. So the main topic for today I wanted to talk about is the Climate Space NL effort. As we all know, climate change is a huge issue. We don't have to go over that. We're slowly changing, or not slowly, we're rapidly changing our climate, and time is running out to act on it. And there are a lot of actions, of course, being taken to try to limit climate change, and I think we can all see that that is going a bit too slow. The main questions that we also see is that there's definitely an information problem there. It is very important to start knowing who is emitting what if we want to be successful in reducing emissions. It's also really important to know which emissions we need to reduce first, and what is the low-hanging fruit to try to limit increase in temperature globally. And if these measures are finally being implemented, how can we make sure that we create a level playing field, and that we are really able to measure which efforts are helping reducing emissions, and to indeed make sure that we can keep seeing the effect of these efforts that are being taken. And this is not something that that we are only saying. I mean, a lot of media is also there and saying that that there's a huge issue with information and the data available to keep track of limiting emissions. So there's a post from the Washington Post, for instance, that clearly says that even the climate pledges of countries that were done in, for instance, the Paris Agreement is built on flawed data, and over 25% of the emissions are not even accounted for. And with the systems that are available now, that have been developed also a lot from using Dutch technology and Dutch science behind it, we are actually seeing that there's indeed an issue. Already the Schemaki instrument indicated that methane emissions are much higher than were expected or that are being reported. And also more recently, the Tropomi instrument flying on Sentinel-5 precursor is measuring major methane leaks. For instance, as we see in the picture here in Australia, methane leaks coming from coal mines that are clearly showing that there's an issue with reported emissions with respect to measured emissions already from these instruments. So we're clearly seeing that there's an issue with providing information, and there's a challenge of providing sufficiently good information to track the global efforts that are being implemented to limit greenhouse gas emissions, to limit climate change. Apart from that, there's a real need for information. From a commercial point of view, you can also see it as a huge business opportunity. The provision of information to limit greenhouse gas emissions is a market that is currently strongly growing and also very much in development. And the expectation of the total size of this information market is about 12.5 billion euros in 2035. So that, of course, provides a very interesting upcoming market for also satellite information, satellite-based information. Of course, this 12.5 billion euros is not all going to be addressable by satellite measurements. But if we drill down on what could be the contribution of satellite measurements, this will reach into the hundreds of millions per year that can be addressed by satellite measurements. And this is what we are focusing on with the Climate Space NL opportunity. The other aspect that is quite important is that the positioning of the parties that are currently part of the Climate Space NL consortium are already quite well positioned to provide solutions in this area. So on the one hand, commercial and scientific solutions for information based on satellite data that could be either done in an open way for scientific use, but also in a more proprietary way for commercial means, is already very much in development. So a few examples are shown in this slide, where from left to right, we already see a company, for instance, like Orbital Eye in the Netherlands, that is providing information on oil and gas pipeline infrastructure using radar data. There's already very much development that has gone into making Tropomi Sentinel-5P data visible and useful through the Copernicus system. There are startups in the Netherlands, such as the company Bright Skies, that also ISISPACE is part of, that are really looking into commercializing the data coming from future emission monitoring satellites. There's huge steps being made in algorithm development to analyze and use satellite data to try to pinpoint emissions. And a few examples are shown here from papers that have been published, where we can clearly pinpoint ultra emitters of methane related to oil and gas infrastructure, and also emissions of greenhouse gases coming from landfills. Also, a lot of science is being done on modeling of plumes that are emitted from either coal plants or power stations or other means, and with trying to get a better understanding on how these plumes develop and evolve in the atmosphere. So there's a huge basis on using satellite information and satellite data to create information on greenhouse gas emissions. At the same time, on the technology and the scientific side, with instrumentation, there's a huge track record within the Netherlands, running back for decades now, developing world-class instruments such as Skiemaki, OMI, and Tropomi, and now also taking the step of miniaturizing this technology to make these instruments more affordable and also possible to run in large constellations for additional revisit time. So also that heritage is part of this Climate Space NL partnership. And the third part is that the new space business has also been thriving quite a bit in the Netherlands, and ISISPACE has been a part of that with the coming from the CubeSat world. But we're also seeing a nice match with trying to use these new space, CubeSpace satellite systems to now incorporate these world-class miniaturized instruments that are developed in the Netherlands, and combine that into new system opportunities. And examples here are ESA Scout program, where we have proposed the Tango mission. We have looked at, we are already operating high-resolution Earth observation CubeSats that incorporate intelligent attitude control modes to increase the signal to noise that is coming from the relatively small aperture of these instruments, and also other new space aspects, such as making use of low-cost cluster launches, cloud-based mission control, and payload data ground segment solutions, and novel ways of interpreting data on a real-time basis using onboard AI and edge computing that has been in development in the Netherlands also for quite a bit. The idea of Climate Space NL is that it's a public-private partnership that will invest 50 million euros per year in the coming decade, so every year, and tries to really develop and give a boost on this value chain, the total value chain for emission monitoring. So we try to involve parties that on the one hand are part of the problems, or the polluters, the emitters, but also more the upstream technology developers, the instrumentation, data analytics, and the processing pipeline development on making sure this all runs in an automated way. And really, indeed, value-added services to provide tailored solutions for customers and end users that are not only on the commercial side, but also policymakers and scientific end users. So the ambition of Climate Space NL is to become your guide to net zero emissions, and to make sure we can all live in a livable planet and have a sustainable future. I wanted to also show quite a few of these parties that have already been involved in it. You see quite a lot of logos, either from companies or knowledge institutes, and also universities. And if there are any other, on the one hand, Dutch parties that would want to be part of this, then I invite you to reach out and try to see if you can be part of it, and also international partners to see if we can create some interesting partnerships here. What I also wanted to show is a little video. I hope it runs well, that also introduces the concept of the system that we are having in mind. So here you see emissions, and you see global monitoring satellites such as the Sentinels that have a global view. And we plan to complement this with a constellation of small satellites that actually focus and zoom in on emissions. And here you can see a train of 2 satellites that measure an emission in 2 different wavelengths to really provide a modular part of this system. It uses intelligent ADCS modes to use forward motion compensation to increase the signal to noise. And as mentioned, it uses world-class optical instrumentation. It downloads the data to the ground, and indeed can be used by either researchers, policymakers, or industry to either better get a grip on emissions or really try to reduce emissions where possible. So the goals of Climate Space NL are to really pinpoint emissions from space using a constellation of small satellites. We will start with a number of atmospheric species, methane, CO2, and NO2, but this can be extended later on to also look at either sulfur dioxide or aerosols, and also looking into maybe other markets such as air quality and maybe other polluting elements. We would not only want to drive the technology, but we're also really looking at the downstream side. We're really looking at developing services and solutions, and be part of developing this market for information services for measuring emissions. We plan to make a public and a proprietary data stream so that we can serve all these different markets and complement institutional missions. And as mentioned, we would like to foster international cooperation on this. So we're also very interested to see what kind of opportunities you think there are to be part of this endeavor. With that, I'd like to finish my presentation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Zeger, for that great, insightful presentation. Really good to see how Dutch technology is contributing to, well, solving this global issue, really. We have one question in the chat before, well, maybe open it up for more questions. But Ali from AgriWatch is wondering how we can use the satellite imagery belonging to your CubeSats. In other words, how do you make your data available to, well, to people who would like to use it?
So yeah, as I mentioned, there will be what is foreseen as a public data stream and a proprietary data stream. And the public data stream will be public, so that will be open to everybody. So that will be some kind of data hub or data portal where you can just register for, and then you will receive automatic updates. And then the proprietary part of it will of course involve a certain charge. So that will be most likely be some kind of subscription that you can have. And then you can also be part of actually tasking the satellites and deciding where they need to measure.
Okay. Thank you for that. Martijn is asking whether non-Dutch companies or institutes can participate in this particular consortium and be eligible for funding, of course.
Yeah, that is something that we would have to see. At this stage, indeed, non-Dutch companies are not eligible for funding, as the part of the funding stream will come from the Dutch national government. So that is mostly meant for boosting national economy. But there indeed are many different ways that there could be possibilities indeed in cooperation, either through ESA or through the Horizon program, through the European Green Deal. So I think it would be very useful to see if we could look at cooperations in that format, and then I think it will become more interesting, I think, for non-Dutch companies to join this effort. Okay,
thank you. Because we do have quite a few non-Dutch companies in the webinar here, of course. But yeah, that is the topic of this webinar: is how can we create European consortia, in this case, to work on these issues using what you're doing and what Climate Space NL is doing as an example of what we can then replicate, maybe at a bigger scale, hopefully using Dutch technology as part of the solution, but maybe not the entire solution. Let's see, we have another question in the chat here, and I'll just read it out from Salah Edine Bentata, saying, for a given application, for example, oil and gas, what's the required revisit time for a site or facility in order to deliver insightful data and continuous service of monitoring, greenhouse gas monitoring in this instance?
Yeah, we've looked at that quite a bit, and the information that we have is that on average, if it is, it depends very much on what kind of species you're looking at, and if it is really about, for instance, methane leak monitoring, then this is something that is this is an anomaly. So this is something that happens as a surprise, and there's a certain, of course, range of different times at which such a methane leak exists before somebody, first of all, realizes it and then does something about it. And we have seen that on average, methane leaks exist for about 4 weeks. And one of the things that we're trying to see if we could reduce that from 4 weeks to 2 weeks. And that is something that we believe we can do with this Climate Space NL system, that we can really make sure that we measure these leaks much faster, so multiple times per week. And once we see a leak, that we very quickly let the polluter or the emitter know, so that they can take action. And the estimation is that we can then cut this leak time from 4 weeks to 2 weeks.
Okay. Now, there's another initiative that I understand, maybe, I hate to say in competition in climate change, because climate change solutions are good for all of us. But GSGSat from Canada has a similar solution where they pinpoint emissions that are found by Tropomi, for example.
Yep.
How do these initiatives work together and together provide a bigger solution than any of them individually?
Yeah, we've done a lot of investigation, of course, in other endeavors, and yeah, there are some interesting things that are different from the way GSGSat is measuring these emissions. And one of the things that we think is in our favor is that we have this huge heritage and backing of Dutch science, so atmospheric science, and also instrument development. And one of the things that we are seeing with GSGSat is that it is taking a long time, has taken a long time before they can really supply reliable data and consistent data that is fully understood. And we believe that that our measurements that are much more based on actually miniaturizing known technology from, for instance, Tropomi, has a much more well understood way of retrieving the emission information from the data, and is a lot less prone to either aberrations in the atmosphere that we do see that GHG set sometimes suffers from. So indeed, it is a competitive landscape, but we also think that the market is large enough for multiple players. So it's not necessarily that we think there's only one party that is going to be successful in here. And I mean, there are quite a few companies in the space world looking at greenhouse gas monitoring. But we think we have the edge because we have this strong backing of the scientific community. And that's also why we think this public-private partnership is the right way to go, because that also makes sure that the scientific component of this is continued throughout this program.
Okay, brilliant. And then maybe building a bridge to what we're going to talk more about later on. How is ISISPACE, but also Climate Space NL, interested in working with people in this webinar on building consortia in the context of Horizon Europe, for example?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the starting point for Climate Space NL is to look at a mostly Dutch endeavor, but we're very much interested in all parts of this value chain to look at international cooperation. And a few of the examples that are sort of quite obvious that would be interesting is real cooperation on the scientific part, and also on more the later stages of the value chain. So really looking at the end users. This is a global problem, so it is very clear that the market for this information is a global market. So for that, it would be very useful to make sure that we partner and team with international companies that can also become, I don't know, anchor customers for a large amount of the data. And I think also indeed for more institutional programs such as the Horizon Europe program and the European Green Deal, it is very interesting to see if we can make some cooperations with those programs. Okay,
very good. And well, I guess that brings us to the next topic and to the next speaker. So thank you very much, Zeger, for your insights. And we hope to see you in the networking part in a few minutes. But before we do that, we will move to, if this presentation moves to the next slide. It does. I would like to introduce our next speaker because we're going to look at some of these more European opportunities that exist at the moment in the area of climate change. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague Andrei, who is going to explain to you a little bit more about the actual opportunities that exist. So Andrei, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Remco. I think we are good to go, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Andrei, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was expecting for confirmation. I don't see you. So, as Zeger mentioned, we've been scouting the European Commission work program. This has been issued already in the past. We had the Horizon 2020, which is followed by Horizon Europe. What you have now on the screen, it's actually a breakdown of the whole Horizon Europe program between 2021 2027. Most of our scouting is located within pillar number 2, which are the research and innovation clusters. Some of them I can mention: digital industry and space, or climate, energy, and mobility, food and bioeconomy. You have also on the left side links to each of the work program that has been published. Why I keep mentioning work program is because using these work programs. All the open calls are based on this work program. So some of the work programs are published in draft, some of them have been published and then publicly available. Based on the existing published one, we selected the calls that we thought they are interested. Now, because we are turning towards another cycle of calls, 2023, 2024, a lot of our scouting has happened on the draft work programs for the 2023, 2024 year. Also, what is new is that besides the work program focusing on each of these 6 clusters, there's a new opportunity within missions, and there are 5 missions, and then today we will focus on 2 of these 5 missions, and then we select several calls in there. But now going a little bit backwards, okay, adaptation to climate change. This is what we propose ourselves to look into it and then to identify the calls. How can you read actually the call? So simply on your screen, you have 2 examples. One example is about cluster number 4, which is from the digital industry and space. And you have there an indicative title, which is Horizon CL4 2023 Space 0111, and then the actual title of the call. So CL4 means cluster 4. I said, what does it mean? Then 2023, it means which work program year this call is going to be made available. So we will start most probably in 2023. And then space is the destination of the cluster. And then in this case, it's destination number 5. If you want to find out more, and then if you want to find these calls, you can also use the SEDIS portal I will be mentioning, and it's also linked in towards the end of this presentation. What I put also on screen is how the missions, they can be identified within the same SEDIS portal of the Horizon Europe calls. Instead of having a CL4, you will have mentioned the keyword miss, which comes from mission. And then the same way we can read this call, Horizon mission. So it's basically the novel instruments for Horizon Europe. You have here also hyperlinked all the mission calls that have been so far identified for the cycle 2021-2022. But also 2023 and 2024 was made available. So we have also this one in our hands, and it's hyperlinked a little bit later. And in this case, the mission belongs to the program 2023, and the mission specifically that that this call is focusing is on the climate change, specifically adaptation to climate change, support at least 150 European regions and communities to become climate resilient by 2030. And then you have obviously also the call of the title of the call. On the left, you have hyperlinked under the image the general presentation done by the European Commission about the mission, and also it's a link to your mission info days, where you can select which info days from which mission you would like to watch. There's also one for climate adaptation, so you can easily watch that one. Now, the adaptation to climate change mission 2021-2025, it plans to prepare Europe to deal with climate disruption, accelerate transformation to a climate resilient future. Some of these things already Zeger mentioned before, builds deep resilience by scaling up actionable solution, triggering societal transformation. The implementation plan is there for you to consult. Why it's important to look at it, and also why read this implementation plan, because while writing the proposal, it's very important to align your outcome and objectives and the impact to the one specifying the call, but also with the implementation plan. Now, the forthcoming draft work program of this mission is hyperlinked at the bottom of the page, left bottom, forthcoming draft work program. So you can read there if you think that we missed a call, or if you just want to consult by yourself, then you can access this DAF4 program, and then you will identify there the calls. Most of the calls that were identified here has not been yet published, so they'll be published probably towards the end of the year. What has been published so far, all the calls belonging to 2022. Very brief words. I'm not going to read everything that's in here, but I think it's also very important to mention here the EU Climate Adaptation Platform. So this is a platform that we set up by the Commission, and it's very important to specify that this platform actually takes a lot of information and takes stocks of a lot of research and innovation initiatives that comes at a different level, from European level, international level, to regional and local. And this is also done because each member state has to submit a climate adaptation plan, and this plan has to be implemented by each member state. So starting basically a lot of research and innovation can take stock of this national adaptation plan, and then align with these plans. And then if we are able to mark and then be aligned with the national adaptation plan, they're definitely going to be a good player in winning this Horizon Europe calls. Now going to more detail, what you have now on screen, you have the list of calls that are identified specific for this webinar. You have here with the light blue, they are the calls that they are still open. Actually, we didn't put any more calls for 2022 because already the deadline was on 26th of September. So we concentrated only on the calls that we open on 2023. We don't have yet a date for when they're going to open, but this is going to be soon. And then I think the calls will become available starting with February, maybe March. So these are the calls for 2022. For example, the one that I presented above, end-to-end Earth observation system and associated services. Then also you have different clusters, but also you have, for example, such calls can be also found within the EUSPA, which is European Space Agency, Space Program Agency, and then EUSPA also is able to inject and then offer funding through Horizon Europe program for new innovative projects. They can be either research and innovation action or innovation action. The difference between them, we can easily respond after the end during the one-to-one sessions. Also, you have from cluster 6, for example, the zero pollution. Also, you have coordination and support action projects, which is the governance, but also we identify a PCP, which is pre-commercial procurement for end user services in the area of climate change adaptation and mitigation. So, for example, this would fit very well with what Zeger mentioned earlier, them focusing on the end user, and then closest to the user from this point of view are the information providers. So that can be a very interesting call. It's true that's opening in 2024, but it's always better to prepare and then find your partners earlier rather than late. And then the same calls continues in the following page. Focusing so for example, call climate-related tipping points starting on December 2022, April 2023. How we identify these calls? We don't do that by just guessing, but actually we look in the call text, and then if we identify and a reference is made to Copernicus program, which is European program, then definitely this is relevant for the space industry as well. And then a partner that would use space observation might be interesting for the consortia to be included. Now this page presents all the mission that we identify, and then they are relevant for the climate change adaptation and the climate change in general. So we identify 3 calls from the climate mission, and then 1 call from the smart cities. This is a new type of call being issued by the European Commission. Their main focus is actually to operationalize as much as possible research and innovation challenges. So they are here to complete the value chain of the space applications that are developed within the Horizon Europe, and they don't reach necessarily that fast to the market. So it's orienting towards the flagship project, the lighthouse projects, but also looking in really detailed application of digital twins, or for piloting, or for demonstration, and so on and so on. How we present the information for you within the open calls dotSPACE, as Remco mentioned earlier, we deliver constantly within our website. The moment we identify interesting calls, we within days we deliver a fact sheet where we present general information, what we know at this moment about this call. For example, what is the budget, how many projects there will be awarded, how much budget for each project, what kind of project it is, also what is the scope and what are the topics, and then maybe some other information about what country can participate, what kind of activities they are envisaged, and also the contact the contact point for us for requesting for more information. What you have here on the screen, there are 2 fact sheets, one for cluster 4, I think, and the other one for the mission on the cities, on smart cities. Now, Zeger also presented ISISPACE as a partner. I'm definitely sure that ISISPACE is also part of the space industry map of the Netherlands. dotSPACE, Groundstation dotSPACE realized for the past 2 years a number of industry maps or ecosystem maps that we help companies from the Netherlands or public authorities, but also partners from other member states or international partners to get accustomed with space ecosystems within the Netherlands. And we did a similar exercise also for the Czech Republic. Why Czech Republic? I think it's an obvious choice because the European Space Program Agency is located in Czech Republic, and Czech Republic ecosystem, space ecosystem, is also becoming very alive. Further general information, I put here the link to the Dutch Enterprise Agency, RVO. RVO is committed to facilitate the application to European funding, and then through their advisors, only for Dutch organization, they will provide you advisorship regarding from reviewing your application and giving you advices with different contacts, or even regarding the impact that you might probably miss at the moment that you're writing your applications. I also mentioned before, all the tender calls, regardless if they are part of Horizon Europe Cluster 4, Cluster 5, but also if they are under missions, they can be found within the European CEDIA platform. Now, sessions about the missions, cluster, and even how to write a proposal for the Horizon Europe grants, you can find in the link forwarded in this slide. And I think one of the final slides, it's about the previous and forthcoming events. We have the ongoing webinar today. There are 2 more, as Remco mentioned. There are the past webinars, and also I found it interesting specifically for this webinar to mention the Climate Adapt portal, where also the events related to climate adaptation, and you will find more information, tools, even a database related to climate adaptation. And then I listed here the events in October 22. I think this is a good start to look how you can actually make impact, starting from the member states level to regional, and then maybe to even European level. So that would be from my side. Remco?
Okay, thank you very much, Andrei. That was very comprehensive. That was a lot of information. There was lots of acronyms, lots of words that people may not be familiar with. What you did in your presentation is include hyperlinks to the individual calls, but also to pages where this all these things are explained. So again, you will get access to Andrei's presentation. Andrei mentioned very rightfully the events. We do have a good events tracker on our website where you will find all these events. So if you go to groundstation.space and then select events in the main menu, you will find a long list of upcoming events, not just the webinars that we organize ourselves, but also lots of industry events that I think are relevant to this and the other topics of the webinar. So please have a look there. If there's any questions for Andrei right now, please put them in the chat. I have one question, Andrei. You gave us lots of different ways to get involved in all these funding calls. How can Groundstation help people in the webinar to find each other, to find the right call, and to get writing on these proposals?
Well, Groundstation dotSPACE, the foundation that we work, it's an open innovation platform. Also, we create, we do a lot of engagement with industry, but also with non-space industries. So we are able to bring together different communities, from public authorities to businesses to industry, but also we organize capacity building from training and master classes, focusing on different areas from innovation to now recently also we're looking to energy, but a lot of our trainings is about actually developing a business, but also how to look at the European call, or to apply to European call using a business canvas. Also ourselves, we are involved in many European projects, and we have a lot of experience in that. So we are here to help you interact with our partners. We have a huge network of partners and contacts that we are able to activate them. Also, Katja, who's here in our image, she's doing a fantastic work in maintaining together with you our LinkedIn page, where we also engage a lot with the community. And then I'm referring into also Copernicus community, to ESA communities, and so on, so on. So basically, we are here to broker and then to gather your ideas, help you to find the right partner, and also help you to streamline maybe your alignment with the calls that we identify. And then simply, if you want to ask us what calls would fit for me, then I think we can have a nice discussion in the breakout session.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Andrei. And I should also mention our other partner in crime here in this initiative, the Netherlands Space Office, is very interested, very motivated, and very supportive in helping European partners find Dutch partners in this case. And as we saw in Zeger's presentation, there is a lot of knowledge in the Dutch space and space data sector to help you fill gaps that you may not have in your organization, together form a consortium for this large variety of calls. So if there's no further questions in the chat, then I would like to move on, and Andrei, you will stay on after the plenary part of this webinar, which is almost over, for people to ask you questions directly. Sure. So with that, I would like to move, and I will put my slide back up here real quick, to the last part of our session before we, yes, and there's this one, before we move to the networking part. But we have given people the opportunity to prepare a 1-minute pitch, and although not all these people are here, we have a few people that are in the room that we'd like to give that opportunity. And the first person to confirm was Noel Pung of Alba Orbital. if I'm correct, that is from Scotland. So, Noel, I would like to give you the opportunity and the floor to present your case. And thank you for being so active in the chat. That's so much appreciated.
Oh, good. Hi. Do I just kick it off now, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Kick it off now.
Yeah. So we are based in Scotland, UK. We used to be part of the EU, but that's besides the point. So essentially, we are sort of a hardware company. So we don't do cube satellites. We do really tiny satellites called Pico. So if you can kind of look at it in the video camera itself there. So it's 5 by 5 centimeters. And sort of really the crux of what I'm going to say, if you forget my name, forget who I am, that's fine. Just look at this sexy satellite there. It's 5 by 15 centimeters. We are launching all these to basically image Earth every 15 minutes. And yeah, we're looking for collaborators, partners, tackling climate change, obviously with natural disasters happening every summer, wildfires, floods, and all of that. That's where the 15-minute temporal resolution rates really come in there. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Noel. If you haven't done so, and I believe you have, but if you haven't done so, maybe you just want to do it again, put your contact details in the chat so people can find out about these Pico satellites and how they can contribute to the amount of data that we're gathering about climate in this case. Is Alba Orbital open to collaborations in the framework of Horizon? I know the UK is eligible for Horizon in a slightly different way than other countries, but is Alba Orbital interested in being part of these consortia?
Yeah, I think obviously we are very keen on any form of opportunity, and we say that because we are a really fairly agile and small team. So I think it's only about 15 of us at the moment there. So we are definitely looking towards the European counterpart to obviously leverage on the scientific aspect there, because we build our products more in a commercial way, but I think what we do lack at the moment there, it's more of the scientific backing, people with really that scientific niche, which could have obviously, we could just team up and sort of, push forward our data services to basically tackle climate change and any other kind of problems here.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Maybe to mention here, Remco, that for the UK, especially for Scotland, you need to consult with the UK research and see if you're aligning and see if you want to participate in the call is within the priorities of UK government. And then you can participate, of course, in the Horizon Europe project, because you'll be funded from UK funds. Yeah.
Yep. No, very obviously. So thanks for that addition, Andrei. Let me go back to my slide here, because we did have a few other names in here, but I haven't seen any confirmation. So if any of you is here and you do want to pitch, then your time to say that is now. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next section. So if I don't hear anything, I will move to my very final section, and that is basically to repeat what I've said already, but I'd like to invite you for our next webinar, which is on the 11th of October, which deals in a very similar format on a different topic, being space for biodiversity. So we have again selected a large number of calls, another example case that we will present on space for biodiversity. To register, the registration is open now. Go to opencalls.space and find the right webinar in the list, or go to groundstation.space in the events list and you'll find it as well. So with that, I would like to hand over, and I can see the breakout rooms have already been created. Would like to hand over to the section where you can meet your potential consortium partners. So please stay online. We're going to close the recording. We're going to close the live stream to YouTube. Make it a little bit more intimate, if you like. Make it a little bit more personal. Our speakers are all available here, and I would like to hand it over to Katja in this case to handle